Hi,
I'm the Iceman.
and I'm Junk.
And we're...
She's coming. The Iceman. She said she's coming.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today. My name is Junk, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about play revivals. So the agenda for this presentation, we're going to talk about the 2017-2018 play revival nominees, going alphabetically from Angels in America all the way down to Travesties, and then at the end there'll be some time for questions. So we're going to jump right in with a play called Angels in America, a Tony Kushner's play originally premiered on Broadway in 1993, and this is the first time it's come back to Broadway since. It's a beautiful show about a lot of different plot lines, but it centers around a young man named Walter Pryor. He is a gay man in New York who's dealing with the AIDS crisis and loss of friends and loved ones when he's visited by an angel who calls him a prophet, gives him a book, and says they need him to usher in the new millennium, essentially. But it is a beautiful show. It's Pulitzer Prize winning, it's a staple of the American theater, and it's funny and sincere and weird and surreal, but it has some beautiful characters and really interesting relationships. This production, especially directed by Marianne Elliott, is gorgeous. Oh, it's so good. It's been nominated for, I think 11 categories. It's one of the most nominated plays this year. Unfortunately, it probably won't win the best design categories. Even though the design is stunning, it's going up against Harry Potter, which also has some really good, smart design. So I don't think it'll win scenic lighting or sound, but the costume's cool, and like Harry Potter just has robes, so I think it has a shot at costume, mostly because there's lots of double casting, so the costumes have to be very specific. And look at the picture of that angel. Oh, it's so cool, I can't stop looking at it. Okay, moving on. It's not going to win Best Original Score, but as a play, it's just an honor to be nominated for Best Original Score, to be honest. And Best Direction, I'm so upset. I want it to win very badly. Marianne Elliott is one of my favorite directors, and the work she does in this show is some of the best direction we've seen since Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, which was Marianne Elliott's last play on Broadway, and that was some of the best direction we'd seen since War Horse, which was Marianne Elliott's previous play on Broadway. She is so good. But she's going up against John Tiffany from Harry Potter, who also does a really incredible job with a trickier script. I think he's going to win this one, but Marianne Elliott should be insanely proud of her work, because it is just beautiful. What it will win, however, is the Performance Awards. I think Andrew Garfield is a lock for Best Performance by a Leading Actor. He does a stellar job, and Denise Gow as well gives a fantastic performance. Actor in a featured role is going to be close. I'm tentatively saying Nathan Lane, because I like him a whole lot, and the work he's doing as Rory Cohn is just gorgeous. And by that I mean sickening. But he's got a lot of competition. The Lobby Hero Boys are doing a really good job, but I'm going to tentatively say Nathan Lane. However, what I'm sure about, this will absolutely win Best Revival of a Play. This is the best revival of a play we've had in a long time on Broadway, and I'm very happy with it. So moving on now to Children of a Lesser God. This is a play written by Mark Medoff. Originally, it premiered in New York in 1980, and then it was made into a film in 1986. It follows a deaf student and her hearing speech teacher who fall in love, and it's a clash of worlds and all of this awkwardness. This production specifically wasn't that good. The original production opened in the 80s, was groundbreaking and talked about deaf culture and deaf appropriation in a way we haven't heard in a while. But now that discussion is a little bit more in the limelight, so people are familiar with it. So instead of talking about that, they just try to make it a love story, and it's not that interesting of a love story. It was nominated for Best Performance by an Actress in a Leading Role for Lauren Ridloff. This deaf actress does a really stunning job, but she's not going to win, I don't believe, for a reason we'll talk about in a little bit. So this brings us to Edward Albee's Three Tall Women. This is actually the first time Three Tall Women has been produced on Broadway. It premiered off Broadway in 1994, where it won the Pulitzer for Best Play. This show looks into the life of a woman referred to in the script only as A, her personal nurse, B, and the lawyer who comes to see them, C. Act 1 is basically just these three women talking about what it's like to be women of certain ages alive. And then in Act 2, they each take on a single character, A's character, at three different times in her life. This is one of Albee's more biographical shows. Apparently, the character of A is exactly his mother. He had a poor relationship with his mother, and this was his way of dealing with it. This production, specifically directed by Joe Mantello, is very nicely done. It was well designed, it was well directed, but really the reason to go is the performances. It was nominated for Best Play, as well as 2 performance nominations and a couple of designs. It's not going to win design or direction. As nice as it is, that's not the reason to go. Glenda Jackson will almost assuredly win Best Leading Actress. She steals the show. She's an 82-year-old powerhouse who used to be a politician in England and is now rocking the Broadway, which is awesome. Laurie Metcalf might win. If anyone's going to take it away from Denise Gow, it'll be her, but I think maybe not. And then, of course, it won't win Best Survival of a Play because Angels will do that. So now we'll move along to Eugene O'Neill's Iceman Cometh. It follows around a man named Hickey, who's a traveling salesman who comes to this bar of lowlifes and slothish people and begins trying to encourage them to put down the drink and go take life by the horns and live the dreams that they've always said they'd do. And then as the show progresses, it gets a little bit darker and we see that Hickey has some secrets. This production, directed by George C. Wolfe, does a really good job. Of course, this is a character-driven piece. It's a star vehicle for Hickey, played by Denzel Washington in this production. It's been nominated for a whole bunch, both design and performances and stuff. As we mentioned before, it's not going to win design awards. I'm just going to say that at the beginning. Nothing's going to beat Harry Potter or Angels for design or direction. The performance is probably its best shot, but unfortunately I don't think it's going to win either of those either. David Morse does an excellent job. Denzel Washington really carries the show, but I don't think they can pass up the Angels fellas. And similarly, Best Survival, it's not going to win. This brings us to Lobby Hero. Lobby Hero, written by Kenneth Lonergan. This is also its first actual Broadway production. It premiered off-Broadway in 2001. This show is about 2 security guards and 2 policemen who meet in a hotel lobby and go through some ethical dilemmas, and there's some betrayal and secrets. This particular production is kind of led by its star power. We have Captain America, Scott Pilgrim, Brian Tyree Henry, who is in the TV show Atlanta, and Bel Pally, who is Thomasina in 2011 Arcadia revival. It's the performances that you really go to see this show, and thus it makes sense that it was nominated for performances. Michael Cera, Brian Tyree Henry. A lot of people think one of these 2 guys will win featured actor. I said Nathan Lane, kind of thinking these guys might split the vote, and because I can't stop loving Nathan Lane, but I think it's super possible one of these guys, probably leaning towards Michael Cera, could get the Tony because they do some really great work. But I'm going to tentatively guess that it won't win for either of those, and also won't win Best Play. So moving on to St. Joan. St. Joan, written by George Bernard Shaw. Originally premiered on Broadway in 1923, before the Tony Awards existed. I mean, it follows St. Joan, the French woman who was a peasant, and then a warrior, and then a heretic, and then later a saint. She receives a message from God and tries to be a prophet of sorts, and has to stand up to a lot of the patriarchy to do so. This production was directed by Daniel Sullivan, and stars Condola Rashad. It doesn't seem that great. It's a 3-hour show, and George Bernard Shaw's words are pretty dense. It just seems kind of boring. They tried to be pretty realism-y in it with the costumes and the sets. It's got a strong ensemble: Adam Chandler Brott and Patrick Page and a lot of other talented fellas. It was nominated for Condola Rashad for Best Leading Actress, and she does a good job. She brings a sense of sincerity and very distinctly not craziness to St. Joan, which is cool, but I don't think she's going to win necessarily. And then the complete flip of St. Joan is Travesties. Travesties by Tom Stoppard was originally on Broadway in 1976. It's a memory play where we look into the past of a man named Henry Carr when he was back in Russia in like the 1910s, hanging out with James Joyce and Vladimir Lenin. But it's funny. So it's a Tom Stoppard play, so it uses lots of wordplay and literary references and stuff. So it's not for everybody, but it's a fast-paced, fun, smart comedy, and I really like those. This production specifically was directed by Patrick Marber. It's a London transfer. It did very well over there. It's a wordy play. It's easy to get bogged down in it, but they keep the action flying, and it just looks like a really great time on Broadway. It was nominated for Best Revival. Tom Hollander got a Best Actor nomination, and it got a couple of design and direction nominations. It's not going to win any of them, for reasons mentioned previously. I do think Tom Hollander is probably the closest to stealing Best Performance by an Actor from Andrew Garfield, but his role is just funny, and Andrew Garfield has so much more depth to what he has to work with, so I think he probably won't win, but he does an excellent job. And to be honest, this is probably my favorite discovery. I never heard of the show, but I think I would really like it, and I'm really glad it made it to Broadway. And so that's just about do it. At this point, I'd like to open the floor for questions, if any of you guys have anything for me. I understand that this is a video, so you can't ask them, but go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you have any questions below. And if you want to join us for the Tony Awards recap, just fill out the form. It's listed in the description below. Thank you.
What? It totally counts. No, a PowerPoint is engaging, dynamic, and educational. Well, your mom's a nerd. Shut up. Why don't you go highlight your face or bake a casserole or something?